You know the feeling end of the month, looking at your bank account balance and thinking, how did I spend all that? You get paid, and it feels like there should be some leftover, right? But there's nothing. You've cut back on eating out. You're bringing lunch to work instead of grabbing something on the go. You've tried to cut back on impulse buys. Yet, somehow, you're still not saving a dime. If that sounds like you, trust me, you're not alone. And I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial habits, and why so many of us, despite all our good intentions, still end up living paycheck to paycheck, stuck in the same financial cycle. I've been there. You know, in fact, I still catch myself in that cycle sometimes. It's frustrating, and honestly, it feels like you're doing everything right, but still somehow falling short. The good news is, there are hidden leaks in your financial ship, leaks you might not even be aware of. And fixing them, well, that's what we're diving into today. Before we get started though, if you've found yourself in this situation feeling like you're working hard, but not getting ahead financially, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Stick around for more insights like this one. I'm all about helping you build a healthier financial life, one step at a time. You're not alone in this journey, and together, we're going to get to the bottom of why you're stuck and how to break free. Now, let's dive in and take a look at what's really going on behind the scenes with your finances. We live in a world where convenience and instant gratification are constantly being sold to us. It's easy to say, it's just a couple of dollars for coffee, or I deserve this little splurge today. But let me ask you, how often do those little splurges add up? Take a moment and think about the last few weeks. How many times did you buy something small because you were craving it or thought you needed it? A coffee from the fancy cafe, that snack at the checkout counter, or that just one more subscription that you signed up for on a whim. These things feel small in the moment, but when you add them up over time, that's where the problem lies. I remember a time when I was buying a $5 coffee every single day. Now, you might say, Nick, it's just $5. But when you do that every day, $5 turns into $150 in a month. That's $1,800 a year on something that didn't even really add value to my life. The real kicker is this: most of the things we splurge on out of convenience or a momentary craving don't even bring us lasting happiness. You've probably bought a snack or a drink and completely forgotten about it 5 minutes later. But the money spent, it's gone. And that adds up, especially when you're making impulse decisions day after day. This is where another hidden leak starts to show up: lifestyle inflation. I'll be honest, this one sneaks up on almost all of us. It's not something that happens overnight, but it's so easy to fall into. It might start with upgrading to a nicer phone, then moving to a fancier apartment, or buying that car you've been eyeing because you've earned it. The problem? The more you earn, the more you tend to spend, and it's easy to fall into this trap. I know plenty of people who got a raise at work and immediately increased their living expenses. They bought a more expensive car, upgraded their apartment, and suddenly, they were back to living paycheck to paycheck. The raise was nice, sure, but instead of putting that extra income towards savings or investments, it just funded a new set of expenses. This doesn't just apply to big-ticket items. Even small changes can create lifestyle inflation. Maybe you start eating out more, buying nicer clothes, or just generally being more comfortable with spending because you've got a little more wiggle room. The reality is this: as your income increases, so does your baseline of expenses. And unless you consciously adjust your spending habits, your savings rate will stay stagnant, or worse, it will actually decrease as you continue to inflate your lifestyle. Let's talk about another sneaky culprit: those insignificant expenses. These things feel so small that they're hardly noticeable. You know, the subscription you're still paying for, but never really use, or that gym membership that's just sitting there, costing you $30 every month. I had a gym membership that I didn't use for months, but I kept paying the $30 monthly fee without even thinking twice. And that's just one example. What about the streaming service you don't really watch anymore, or the random donations that automatically come out of your account? These small things don't feel like much, but let's break it down. If you're spending $30 a month on something you don't use, that's $360 a year. That's $360 you could have invested in a savings account, a retirement fund, or something that actually builds your wealth. So, there you have it, the 3 hidden leaks in your finances: the "I need it now" culture, lifestyle inflation, and those seemingly insignificant expenses. They're the silent money drainers that leave you wondering why you can't seem to save, even though your income hasn't changed. But here's the good news. Now that you're aware of these leaks, you can start plugging them. It won't happen overnight, but small changes today can lead to big wins tomorrow. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. No one is. But if you make small, conscious decisions to keep more of your hard-earned money, you'll be surprised at how much your savings can grow. So, the next time you're standing in line at the coffee shop, ask yourself, do I really need this right now? The same goes for that shiny new gadget or the impulse buy you just added to your cart. The power is in your hands, and every small choice can add up to big changes in your financial future. The road to financial freedom doesn't need to be paved with perfection, it's about progress. And with that, you can start to turn those hidden leaks into opportunities to save, invest, and build the life you want. Let's talk about what happens when these leaks aren't plugged. You see, the thing about these small, seemingly insignificant costs is that they don't just drain your checking account, today they compound over time. I'll give you an example that might make it a little clearer. Imagine you've been buying your daily coffee for $5. Over the course of a year, that adds up to $1,800, as we saw earlier. But what if, instead of spending that money on coffee, you put it into an investment account, say, a low-cost index fund? Now, let's be conservative here. If you invested that $1,800 every year and earned an average return of 8% after 30 years, that coffee money would grow to approximately $120,000. Yes, you read that right, $120,000 that you could have used for retirement or any big life goal. It's not the coffee that's the problem, it's the fact that we overlook how our daily spending choices are affecting our financial future. Small decisions can have a massive impact on your wealth, and most of the time, we don't even notice. The same applies to your subscriptions, your impulse buys, or any small expense you think is no big deal. Over the long term, they're costing you far more than just the money you see today. Here's where things get tricky. We live in an age where everything is available at the snap of a finger, and the more options we have, the more likely we are to make a choice based on immediate gratification. Right? Take the way most of us shop for clothes, gadgets, or anything else online. Every time you see that sale banner or an email promising 50% off if you buy today, your brain goes into overdrive. That dopamine hit feels good, right? It's that immediate pleasure from buying something new or getting a deal. But what if I told you that, while you're getting a temporary rush, you're also locking yourself into a habit that makes you feel worse over time? This is the psychological trap of instant gratification. We make purchases that feel good in the moment, but the problem is that they often lead to buyer's remorse later on. You get home with a new pair of shoes or a trendy gadget, and it's exciting at first. But after a few days, that initial excitement fades, and you realize you didn't really need the item. And then comes the guilt: I could have used that money better. Why did I buy this? The impact of this behavior isn't just on your wallet, it's on your mindset. These impulsive purchases can create a cycle where you're constantly chasing that next hit of excitement, never really allowing yourself to enjoy what you have or take control of your finances. Small wins lead to big results. Now, let's talk about the flip side. Once you recognize these leaks in your finances, you have the power to plug them. And while it's tempting to think you need to overhaul everything in your life, the truth is, small changes are often the most powerful. Take your coffee habit, for instance. What if you made your own coffee in the morning instead of buying it? That's an easy change that can save you about $1,800 a year. Or, even better, let's say you decided to put that money into a high-yield savings account or an investment. Over time, it adds up, and if you make this one simple change and track your spending, you'll be amazed at the progress you make. And it's not just about coffee. It's about being intentional with every purchase you make. Have a plan. Have a purpose. When you do that, you'll see your wealth begin to grow. And when it starts to grow, you'll be less likely to make those impulse buys because you'll start realizing just how much more powerful saving and investing is than any temporary purchase. Small wins, like tracking your spending, making a list before you go shopping, and finding alternatives to impulse purchases, can put you on the path to financial freedom. You just have to take the first step. Okay, so now we've identified the leaks, and we've talked about how those small changes add up over time. But let's take it a step further. We've got a good start, but what really sets successful savers and investors apart from the rest is building a solid foundation to work from. That's where financial awareness becomes your secret weapon. The thing about financial success is that it's not all about cutting back or avoiding the leaks, it's about balance. You can still enjoy your life, buy that occasional treat, or even take that vacation. But when you start taking control of where your money goes, you're building something much bigger than a short-term savings account. You're building a mindset of financial freedom. Now, if you've been reading any personal finance books or watching videos like this one, you've probably heard about automation. But seriously, if you haven't automated your savings yet, what are you waiting for? One of the most game-changing things I've done is set up automatic transfers into my savings and investment accounts. When you don't see the money, it's easier to let it build. Minohi, you get paid, and before you even have a chance to think about spending it, a portion of your income is already working for you, building your wealth, paying off debt, or saving for something big. If you think about it, how often do you sit down and consciously decide to move money into savings? Probably not that often, right? Life gets busy. It's easy to forget or tell yourself you'll do it later. But if you automate it, you take the decision-making out of the equation. It becomes a habit, just like paying your bills. Now, before we wrap everything up, let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention: your money mindset. You can do all the right things automating your savings, cutting unnecessary expenses, investing, but if your mindset doesn't align with your financial goals, it's going to be tough to make any real progress. So, how do we shift our money mindset? Well, a big part of it is understanding that wealth building is a marathon, not a sprint. We live in a society that loves instant gratification, but when it comes to money, the slow and steady approach is often the best. I used to think that if I didn't hit my savings or investment goals overnight, I was failing. But the reality is, you won't get rich overnight, and that's okay. The key is consistency, small, intentional actions every single day. And over time, those actions compound and create momentum. It's also about changing how you view money. Instead of thinking about it as something that slips through your fingers, start seeing it as a tool, a resource you can use to create opportunities, to build a better future for yourself and your loved ones. The most successful people don't just make money, they build wealth. They make smart choices, they stay disciplined, and they think long-term. They don't let small setbacks or failures discourage them. Instead, they treat every challenge as a lesson to be learned from. Understanding delayed gratification. Speaking of long-term thinking, let's touch on delayed gratification, something that's essential to building wealth. The idea of waiting for something, putting off immediate desires in favor of future rewards, is a hard pill to swallow, but it's a key part of financial success. I'll be honest, there were times in my life when I'd rather buy a new gadget or take a spontaneous trip than put money into savings. It felt good in the moment, but I'd always end up feeling the sting later. Not because I didn't enjoy those things, but because I was sacrificing my future for my present. Here's the thing: delayed gratification isn't about depriving yourself. It's about making smarter decisions now that will benefit you in the long run. It's about recognizing that while a new gadget or a last-minute vacation might feel great now, being financially free and secure in the future will feel even better. The best part? Once you get into the habit of delaying gratification, it actually becomes easier. You'll start to find satisfaction in saving, in watching your wealth grow, and in achieving the bigger goals you've set for yourself. We've touched on compound interest before, but let's dig a little deeper. The earlier you start investing, the more you'll benefit from compound interest. But did you know that there's a way to turbocharge it? When you invest in the stock market, or through retirement accounts like IRAs or 401ks, you're not just investing your initial money. You're also investing the returns that money generates. Over time, the returns compound, and that's where the magic happens. For example, if you invest $10,000 at an average return of 8% per year, you'll earn $800 in the first year. But the next year, you'll earn 8% on $10,800. The year after that, you'll earn interest on $11,664, and it continues to grow exponentially. This snowball effect is the reason why the earlier you start, the better. Even if you don't have a lot to invest right now, starting small and letting it grow over time can make a huge difference. Now, we've covered the basics: automating your savings, cutting out leaks, setting goals, and even getting into the mindset of delayed gratification. But there's always room to take things to the next level. So let's explore some advanced strategies for wealth building that can further accelerate your financial journey. It's time to stop thinking about just saving money and start thinking about how you can make money work for you. We've touched on compound interest before, but let's dig a little deeper. The earlier you start investing, the more you'll benefit from compound interest. But did you know that there's a way to turbocharge it? When you invest in the stock market or through retirement accounts like IRAs or 401ks, you're not just investing your initial money. You're also investing the returns that money generates. Over time, the returns compound, and that's where the magic happens. For example, if you invest $10,000 at an average return of 8% per year, you'll earn $800 in the first year. But the next year, you'll earn 8% on $10,800. The year after that, you'll earn interest on $11,664, and it continues to grow exponentially. This snowball effect is the reason why the earlier you start, the better. Men, if you don't have a lot to invest right now, starting small and letting it grow over time can make a huge difference. If you haven't already, open a brokerage account or a retirement account where you can begin investing in low-cost index funds or ETFs. Don't wait for the perfect time. Start with whatever amount you can and let compound interest do the heavy lifting over time. Now, here's where things get interesting. Once you've got a basic grasp on saving and investing, it's time to think about diversifying your investments. This is one of the key ways to reduce risk while still growing your wealth. We've all heard the saying, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket," right? That's especially true when it comes to investing. By diversifying, you spread your investments across different asset classes: stocks, bonds, real estate, maybe even precious metals or alternative investments like peer-to-peer lending. For example, if you only invest in stocks and the market crashes, your portfolio could take a massive hit. But if you have some bonds, some real estate, or other assets, those might hold their value or even increase in value, helping to offset any losses in your stock investments. Start by diversifying your portfolio. If you're mainly in stocks, consider adding some bonds or real estate into the mix. Low-cost index funds, or ETFs, are a great way to get broad exposure to a variety of sectors and asset classes with minimal effort. Okay, let's talk about how you can increase your income. We've focused a lot on saving and investing, but sometimes, to really supercharge your financial situation, you need more money coming in. That's where side hustles come into play.